Abby, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the new era. You're one of a slew of independent candidates. Just yesterday, the results started coming through from the Euro elections across Europe, and obviously on our own doorstep, we had the results from the elections in the Republic of Ireland, where a lot of independent candidates have been elected or got substantial votes, and has caused quite a bit of upset within the party political system in Ireland.
Mm.
Obviously, you're coming at this from an independent perspective as well. But why did you not get involved in party politics? Why did you go into politics per se rather than party politics?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. In 2017, roughly, I had a friend who came to me and she said to me, Abby, we need to join our town council in Shepton Mallet, where I live. And I was like, oh, I don't think that sounds like something I want to do. And she's like, no, we absolutely have to, because they don't get anything done. They are just arguing amongst themselves, amongst their own political parties, and they just don't get anything done. So I agreed, and we formed a group. And in 2019, we put forward candidates onto our town council, and we won 3 of the seats out of a council of 16 councillors. And when we got there, it really was quite toxic. So we had like Liberal Democrat grouping, we had Labour, and we had Conservative, and they just could not agree on anything. They couldn't even speak to each other, actually. And on occasions, police had been called to meetings. They had 106 money that had been lost because they just couldn't function, really. And so we spent the next sort of, I would say, about 2 years just continually saying, this is not appropriate, this is not appropriate, this is not appropriate. We actually need to work together in order to do things for our town, because that is why we are all here. And it's a voluntary role as well at that level. So you are volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time as well, it was sort of widely understood that party politics didn't really have a part to play in local government. And we had met with Peter McFadden, who pioneered a movement in Frome,
Mm-hmm.
and he'd written a book called Flat Pack Democracy. So we had met with him, and he had told us about his journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really through that process, and I had never really been that politically engaged before. So yeah, I obviously voted, but I wasn't really attached to a political party. It wasn't like I was really entrenched in one political party. I was sort of very neutral, really. And through that process, it did start to make me look more closely at Parliament and the way Parliament was functioning. And I realised that the same behaviours were present in Parliament, and the parties were really just at war with each other. And while they were doing that, they weren't actually doing anything else. So in January 2023, I made the decision that I was going to run as an independent in the next general election. So here I am.
Good for you. And you were telling me before this recording started that you'd knocked on over 20,000
Yeah.
doors to date across the constituency. So over what period have you kind of been building your visibility within the constituency?
Well, I literally started campaigning straight away. So the first action, we have a new constituency. It's called the Wells and Mendip Hills. It used to be called the Wells constituency. So it's changed. We are taking in 47% of parts that are new to our constituency, and they cover 3 other different constituencies. So North Somerset, Weston-super-Mare, and Bridgewater, parts of those areas are coming across to our seat. So I had to figure all of that out, first of all, because those boundaries hadn't been set. But I did, and then I figured out how many of those areas had parish councils. And then I started making contact with all the parish councils, and there were 51 of them, and I went to a meeting for every parish. So all of the little, all your little villages, I went to a meeting 51 times to different parish councils and sat in their meetings. So that was the work I started straight away. And then in around October last year, I actually realised that if I was going to have a chance of getting elected, I actually needed to engage with people face to face. And the only way to do that is to door knock. So I made the decision to leave my job at the University of Bath as a dignity and respect investigator, and I went door knocking full time. I can do about 30 doors an hour. I do about 200 a day, and I've done over 22,000 doors now. And I haven't even done half. So the constituency is actually 44,000. There's 44,000 homes. So it took me a year and a half to do it all, but
And what sort of feedback are you getting on the doorstep? Given the fact that you are an independent, do they immediately want to know, what party you're aligned with, and look vacantly when you say that you're
An
not aligned
independent.
with any of them?
Yes, that is important. So we're a Conservative stronghold really here in this seat. It's been a Conservative seat for 100 years, except one term in 2010 when the Liberal Democrats took it. So it is important to people. They sort of phrase it in different ways, but they're like, where are you on the political spectrum? And I very authentically say to them, actually, I take values from all of them. I've got some Conservative values, but I've also worked in homelessness, so I've got a lot of Labour values as well. And we don't fly as a family, for example. We made that decision, and my husband's Irish also, so it was a big decision for us, but we haven't flown for 6 years. So I've got green values as well. I actually take values from the whole spectrum, and this is what I tell people on the door. So I don't have a problem with the value system of the parties. It's just about their conduct and the way they behave is not appropriate.
Mm. But it is, and particularly within the Conservative Party, and this would apply to the Prime Minister as well. The Conservatives and the establishment parties, if I could call that, do have a tendency of sort of parachuting in candidates, particularly in the safe seats. And often the people that they parachute in have got no relationship whatsoever and no understanding of the dynamics of the constituency. Clearly, this must represent an opportunity for you because you know the constituency, you're knocking on those doors, and you know the local issues. So is that resonating?
Yes, that's happened to us. So our incumbent was James Heapy, who had been selected by the Conservative. He's Conservative. He'd been selected by the Conservative Party a year ago and was going to stand. But in March of this year, he said that he wasn't going to stand. So they were looking around for a long time. They were struggling. And then last week, they made the decision to parachute somebody in from London who's a special advisor. So this person has an address in Hammersmith. She has no connections, as far as I'm aware, to the Wells and Mendip Hills or anywhere in the Wells and Mendip Hills. And she is our Conservative candidate. And the Labour Party too, they've selected a candidate who's also out of the constituency, even though he does have connections in the constituency. So yeah, I think that is a big problem. And it is a big problem when you're talking about rural areas like this area. It matters to people if your representation has come from the area or
not. Yeah, and it surely, though, must mean that there is an opportunity, though, for independence, particularly in this election.
Yeah, definitely.
Because you do get a sense that there is this palpable, it's gone beyond sort of indifference or oh my goodness, they'll always be elected because they're and I'll vote for them because they always get elected anyway, but to abject hatred for the mainstream political parties because they just do not listen, they do not reflect popular opinion on the doorstep.
It's funny because what I say to people is it's like I've been doing intense polling for 8 months because I talk to 100 people every day. And I've talked to probably 15,000 people. So I actually do really know what people are saying. And what people do say is that people in their 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s are saying to me, I have voted Conservative my whole life, but this time I won't, Abi, this time I won't. And they say, but I won't vote for the Liberal Democrats and I won't vote for Labour. And I say, okay, well, here I am, because I am actually a viable option for you. And this is what I'm going to do. And I am, because of that, I am a viable option for these voters who wouldn't know actually how to vote, I don't think, in this election.
Yeah, well, listen, I just want to say, well done for doing it, but just maybe this is your opportunity, if you like, to do your elevator pitch. So why? I get all of the reasons, but I'm now being totally non-biased here in asking this question. But so why should people vote for you? What is it that what are your passionate beliefs and what are your objectives? What do you want to achieve if you were to be elected to Parliament? So set out your stall, if you will, and I'll give you.
I'll do my big pitch. So if I got elected, I would be the first female independent ever elected into Parliament. So that alone is very, very groundbreaking, and it would cause a bit of a stir, and I would get a lot of publicity around that. So I would have a platform, and I would use that platform very intentionally to say we must remove our party politics from Parliament. and find a way to work together so that we can actually serve the people in this country. And because I have experience locally of doing just that, I have, you know, aspirations and hopes that we will do that in Parliament as well. We actually need a significant culture change in Parliament. And people say that to me on the door as well. They say something needs to change in our culture in Parliament. And I say, yes, but they won't reform themselves. The parties are not able to do it. They are in it. And when you're in something, you can't do that. So this is our ticket. Me running as an independent is our ticket to actually reform our political environment.
Well, good for you. The question though is that the nature of this part. You know, the most recent success by an independent. I'm going to call him an independent because, to be honest, I'm not sure that his political party is up to much. Was George Galloway winning Rochdale?
Yeah.
But the runner-up was an independent.
He was. Yes.
And but it shows that the Galloway, in my view, you know, obviously represented the interests of Rochdale. He researched the constituency very well, and
Yes.
obviously his platform resonated with the voter base there.
Yeah.
But do you think that some of the techniques, if you like, understanding the voter base that, you know, were articulated by George Galloway are the types of things that you're bringing to the party in Wells and Mendip Hills?
George Galloway is a very clever man, and what he did was hone in on a very single ticket issue that resonated very deeply with the voter, with the voting electorate in that area. So he picked obviously the war in Gaza, and that was his sell pitch to the voters. And they obviously went with it because there is a lot of emotion around that issue right now, and people want to express their views. It is slightly different where I am in this constituency because it is a Conservative seat. And I think most people just actually resonate with the message that they don't want to watch the political parties fighting and that they do want a collaborative government. So that my message actually speaks to, but not just Conservative voters, it speaks to Labour and Liberal Democrats and Green, and it speaks to the whole spectrum. And what I have found as well, particularly in relation to the Liberal Democrats in this area, I don't know about nationwide, but they sort of sow this message out there that we are your only hope to get the Conservatives out. But actually that just it plays into people's fear, and it actually leaves people feeling quite hopeless. And people are looking for something that they actually can feel excited about and put their hope in. And I think this message that I have goes a lot deeper, and it is giving people that hope again, that they can vote for something they actually believe in.
How do people find out more about you? You know, obviously people will be watching from other constituencies as well, but they might be interested in knowing how you've set out your stall and the particular messages you're putting out. And of course, you might inspire some other independents as well. But how do they find out more about your stall, if you like?
Yeah, I hope I do inspire people, because I would love for more people to run as independents in the future. I have a website. So my website is abimcguire.co.uk. So ABIMCGUIRE. There is a lot of content on my website. It tells you a lot about me as a person and my background, and I've done podcasts so people can listen to podcasts. And yeah, they can connect in with me through the website as well. I'm quite happy to answer any question, even if they're out of the constituency. That's no problem.
Brilliant, Abi. I really appreciate it, and I wish you every success in the campaign. I'll be watching with interest, and thanks for taking the time out of your door knocking
to
spend a few minutes with me.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you.